I see that we're live. There's the wonderful, wonderful people joining. And today I'm with Egberto. And I always say to myself, it's like, oh, it's been too long. Why is it? Oh, there's Dr. Eric. It's been too long since I've talked to Egberto, but it's just sort of like, brother, I'm talking to people every day. I would love to talk with you 24 hours a day if I could, but I know
Well,
you got other things to do
we
too.
enjoy speaking to each other because we're on the same wavelength, my brother. We're on the same wavelength, which is very important.
I tell you, and it's just this year, the one thing this year has done, like last year is miserable, but I've met more good people this last year. A lot of them are in the comments. Year one, all these strong, strong friendships we're developing. These are going to be lifetime friendships from
That's a great
2025.
thing about it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if there's one thing you can say, that's a great thing about it. You meet a lot of new people, and it's impactful. So we can give all the bad people a big thank you for connecting all of us together.
Oh, and the veil's being pulled away, and then people keep saying, and I just try to make these connections too, because there's just so much division that doesn't need to be there in the United States, and it's all artificial. It's all by design. And these, the more I can introduce you to other people. You're gonna have to come on with me and Nick. I don't know if you know Nick Paro yet.
No, well,
Uh,
just bring us on. We'll talk, man. We'll have fun.
yes, that's what we do, and then we keep doing that exchange. But let's get to like the topic of the day. I was listening. I was out skiing this morning. Mental health, everybody. And although last Monday when I skied, I bonked my head and like was a little foggy.
Wait. Did you say you were skiing?
I went cross country skiing. This is
Where is?
Wisconsin.
Where are you?
I'm in northern Wisconsin. That's the I'm about an hour and a half out of Minneapolis. So
Oh,
this shit's been hitting
wow.
hard. This shit's been hitting hard with that woman with Renee Nicole Good being assassinated by the U.S. government last week. And on Wednesday we heard that. Thursday I didn't send my kids to school just because we'd got some news that ICE might be active in this area too. My wife, she works in the ALL, so she went in and she made calls, and we just had to make sure everybody was safe, and that's just the thing where and even now though, it's just like people act like I'm being just unreasonable, you're an alarmist. And I'm just like, buddy, it's like, you need to start getting excited. It's like, it's not that I'm overreacting, you're underreacting. Because the stuff is
L- l-
serious.
Let me tell you something, Walter. I've been here for decades. I'm originally from Central America, Panama. And when this stuff about birthright citizenship and revocation of citizenship and all of that was the word of the day, I thought, I have all my papers, did it cleanly, all of that. I thought I was safe. The truth of the matter is, even born Americans aren't safe.
Yeah.
I'm a naturalized American, and I know I'm not safe. Born Americans are now not safe.
Yeah. Nobody's safe. We're seeing video of these ICE agents slipping. They're walking around in Minneapolis. They're all from Texas, so they don't know how to handle the cold. They slip on the
Okay.
ice, and then they have accidental discharges of their weapons. That's gonna
I
kill
didn't hear
somebody.
that one. Wow,
I
that's
saw a
bad.
video of it. Guys walk around, his gun goes off. And I grew up with honestly a lot of the people in my family. I mean, my family was one of those families where like an afternoon was getting the gun and going down to the gravel pit and shooting all day. And this is not aligned with who I am as a person, but I was just like, you're just a kid in this society. Like, all right, I'm supposed to go with my family and shoot guns all day.
But
And
you know what is an interesting thing, Walter? I am not. Look, if you're from a family that want to have rifles and go out there and shoot in a range and all that kind of stuff, hey,
yep,
I don't know what's in it there for you, but be my guest. I'm not one of those real lefty progressives which I am, but I'm not one of those real lefty progressives who believe I want to take all your bullets away and all of that. I'm just saying I don't want you around me with it.
yeah,
I want to be able to be in my space without having you have the law that says a store can't stop you from coming in here with. I mean, it's basic. I
yeah.
want the same freedoms that you want, you
But
know?
yeah, but where I was going with that was, I mean, I'd go hunting with them, and they would just not be safe. I mean, and that's the issue because they're sloppy with the way they handle their guns. And It got to the point where they, I found myself, the rule is I should never be looking down a barrel. Never.
Right.
Never. And I looked down so many barrels, I said, that happens one more time, I'm going to assume you're trying to kill me. And eventually, I mean, you just couldn't get them to be safe with their weapons. And then you get people just don't realize this. I'll have conversation with people that say, you have to be mindful of an accidental discharge. They say, well, it'll never happen. It's like right now you're not safe. I know you're not safe because you think it'll never happen. And that makes you lackadaisical. It makes it happen. So I do not think you're safe to handle that gun around my kids. And I just see so many people that just, there's so many of these people that it's because of a culture of like gun worship. And I mean, I did. I went through all the things and got certified and all these things so I can handle a weapon safely. But so many of these people, they just go and buy it. Oh, I'm glitching. They go and buy their firearms and they just don't know how to handle it. They don't take it seriously and they end up killing people. And see, the conversation always jumps to, I'm not talking about taking away your guns. I think you need to be licensed, though. I think you need to have a psychological evaluation. And I really think we need strong gun control because a lot of the arguments that we have just overlook just how dangerous those things are. I mean, you don't sell dynamite to just anybody.
Exactly.
You got to have it. There's got to be a mechanism for how to do it. And so many of these people just don't. I mean, and it just gets frustrating that that's not part of the conversation. Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, when I mean, the part of the conversation it is, man, is that they've weaponized all those off issues into a mass to convince a whole lot of people that those other people are trying to take all these things away from you. They want to take your religion, they want to take your morals, they want to take all these things. They put that into one nice package and give you that package of fear. Yes. Look at what they want to do to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I was saying too, because, oh, I'm glitching again. That's all right. You can still hear me. That just looks awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I was going to say this argument because we're seeing now that the deplorable government is not talking about accountability and and responsibility. That's what I was talking about with handling guns safely, and they divert it. And this issue of, police officers are killing so many people. Police officers are killing so many, and this isn't new. People will tell you that's been going on, as long as anybody has been in the United States. So now they're disparaging Renee Nicole Good's character. They're claiming she was trying to hit that police officer or that officer, whatever he was. We don't even know if he's an officer. He didn't identify himself. They didn't officially name him. They didn't give him his. We know who he is.
He was a masked man.
An armed masked man waving his gun, telling a woman to stop. Right. But here's the thing: he murdered her. Didn't stop the car, though. He did not stop the car. I've been saying this. This completely dismantles the conservative argument where they say it was self-defense, because shooting a driver does not stop the car. The car didn't hit him. So his action did nothing to protect him. It was no act of self-preservation. It was just an act of murder. And this irritates me because this is the thing that needs to be told to the vice president when he's speaking, to Caroline Leavitt when she's speaking, to the president himself, because when he shot her, the car kept rolling. And if he thought he was about to be run over, shooting her didn't stop that because the car kept moving. That was not what was happening.
He actually put more people in danger when he did that. But now here's an interesting thing, my friend, because this is something that there is what occurred, but then there's the politics behind this, and that there is a degeneracy on the right when these guys, including the vice president and the right-wing guy who actually originally released the video, they actually thought that video would be definitive in proving his innocence.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, what it did is it further humanized Renee Nicole, right? Because here you had this girl passively looking through her window saying,
I'm not mad.
I'm not mad at you. I am not mad at you.
A smile.
Nicely, with a sweet voice. Her wife is there saying, I served. I'm an American. I served. And it made them look like the all around American people, right? And
Yep.
then after he kills her, murders her, his the only thing out of his mouth we heard was F, you know, F you bit.
Yep.
Now think about this. You hear nice words, humane words from her, and you hear
Uh,
that misogyny, violent from him.
yes.
And but Walter, in your mind, there's a caller to my show this morning. She says, I am not religious. I'm a humanist, but she's very religious. And she called into my show and she said that God works in mysterious ways because he that is the best tape that showed us some character of what occurred in real time. Of all the tapes that are around, we have a lot of tapes from every angle, no sound. Every angle, no sound of their voices.
Yeah.
But because he was in close proximity, he was able to get her voice, his voice, her wife's voice.
Hmm.
And my God, like my religious caller said,
Yeah.
sometimes things work mysteriously because he humanized them more than any other tape that was out there, in my humble opinion.
Yes. And I think that tape, it reveals something that everybody's got to know as we continue our battle against white supremacy. I keep saying this is a white supremacy regime. This is America's original sin. It's been fused with our cultural identity. We need to remove it. Oh, the way white supremacists operate is they do not see reality. They only see a white supremacy narrative. So they released that tape thinking it exonerated them
Right,
because there are things in that tape. The fact that, she has a wife to the white supremacists, they've got this toxic hate ideology.
right.
They only see what they've conditioned themselves to see. And this is really critical. Everybody in the chat and, particularly the white people who don't seem really yet to understand what we're up against here. You can't, because they keep saying we need to see things from their point of view. Their point of view is not connected to reality. You only can understand their view if you've succumbed to the hate ideology of white supremacy. So that's a non-starter. Like seeing their point of view, it's understanding that they are transforming reality in their minds, to see this, to claim she's a threat and then release this evidence to prove, which they think proves she's a threat. In their mind, they really think that's what that video did. And so that's the divide that we need to look at. We need to understand that, what we're up against here. Because they are so detached from reality with these things. Yeah, they release a video that condemns them, thinking it shows a justification. And we have to understand what that means and that signifies and what it tells us about this conflict that we're in.
You know what is interesting? You mentioned something quite important there when you were speaking about white supremacy, right? There is this TikToker, a white young lady, and she came on and she said that she first sort of done an admonition. Why are you so surprised that this blue-eyed blonde got shot? That's the first thing she said. And then I kept on listening, and then she said, "You have to realize when you are defending the honor of others, when you are defending the honor or fighting for others, specifically non-white others,
Yeah.
remember you have lost your adjacency to
Yes.
whiteness." She was a lot more eloquent in the way she said it.
Yes.
But I sat down and I said, young lady, she was probably a Gen Z young lady. And I'm like, go out there and sing, babe. Go out there and
Yes.
sing it.
Yeah. And that's true. It's like white supremacy is a misnomer. And we've seen this with all the different, my friend Bob Dana was talking about it. His family was from Italy. So when they were Italian
Mhm.
immigrants, they weren't considered white
Right,
and you are not considered part of that group until you start to speak their hate language and they
right,
recognize their hate language. And that's what makes this really scary is because their hate language has been fused with the cultural identity of the United States. And when even to things like I was telling somebody today, even calling uh, them the founding fathers, that's the language of patriarchy. That's a
right.
justification of slavery, calling them the founding fathers, elevating the father figure, this unquestionable authority figure, who of course is white. all of this is part of it. And we have to peel away these layers and recognize, yes, I mean, they'll call me a race traitor. So if you say, and then I was just kind of thinking, because there's all these dog whistles that they use. And my friend, I'll talk to you too about Daniel Engelhardt. He's in Minneapolis. He's organizing peaceful resistance. And we can talk about that some more. I sent you a video about that. But it's just, he's been recognizing all these guys you see the tattoos, the SS tattoos, the swastikas, all these different symbols. And I don't know if it would make sense if you're like, are you going to shoot me 88 times? Because that's a dog whistle for white supremacists. They might not shoot you if you say something like that. So I don't know if there's value in learning those dog whistles just to try to use those. That's more of a shield to you than just about anything else you could say. But it also is scary that we are dealing with a government-funded white supremacist force that thinks it's above the law and is willing to kill people.
Let's talk about Walter as a race traitor. Let's discuss Walter as a race traitor.
Yeah.
Okay, because you just got to me right there. Let me tell you something, right? First of all, Walter, unfortunately, I am one of those who think race is one of the stupidest things out there. Yeah. But because I live in a racialized society, I have to live within its context, right? What I love is, once somebody calls a white person a race traitor, what they're actually saying is that white person realize they are a human being.
Oh man,
it is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Because what happened is we're all human beings, right? And somebody decided to create this white supremacy model in order to control people. And what I try to explain to a whole lot of my white brothers and sisters is the following. White supremacy is not your friend, not even for white people.
Correct.
Right? And one of the things that I explained as well is let me give a few things of what white supremacy hides white's humanity in Appalachia. Let me explain. In order for them to show a supremacy, they have to show that whites marginally or in every aspect comes out in every feature better than everybody else. Unfortunately, that reality isn't true, right?
Yes.
So you don't hear much about all the degeneracy that you may find. And guys, please forgive me. My black brothers, my Latino brothers, my brown brothers, forgive me for how I want to express this. But you don't, for whatever degeneracy occurs in the ghettos and the barrios, I'm stereotyping here, they would have you believe that that is something endemic to those people of color. They don't let you see that this is all socioeconomic. Because the same, quote unquote, degeneracy you would find in the ghettos and the barrios, you go into Appalachia and you find that in concentration, just like you find that in these areas. In other words, it's a human condition based on socioeconomic issues.
Yes.
But they don't want you to know that. They want you to believe that anytime you're doing badly or anytime something is wrong, if that black pilot is taking the spot of a white pilot that was qualified, as opposed to looking at the reality that said that black pilot had to go through so many more hoops to be there, which generally makes him more qualified. Here's the thing. I want to say this one. This one always gets me. People always talk about basketball players are so good. Black guys can play basketball. Guess what? I don't know how to play basketball. Okay, next thing. They are so good at football. Guess what? I don't play football. But what I'm saying is to make it in society, they make the others have to work so hard that in those particular areas, they cannot help be better because you made them better.
Yes.
You made Tiger Woods the best. You made all these people the best because to get their foot in, they had to be so much better.
Yep. And that's exactly what we were saying before, though. Like the whole white supremacy ideology has to remain kind of hidden because everything contradicts what they believe. But it's
Right.
what's really so offensive right now because the white supremacists are dragging it out into the light themselves. But they've encroached, and they're trying right now. Like, look at what's going on. We got this white force who's decided they've spent $170 billion over 4 years on ICE. They want even more money, and they're operating on the premise that if they remove all the people that aren't white from the country, all crime will go away. But they're the ones. This white supremacy force is what's killing people, and
Right.
but it's to the shame of the United States of America. One, that white supremacist government was elected and put into power. And you know what? I honestly, there's stuff about the election I think was potentially messed with. We had the bomb threats that we need to pressure our Democrats to do recounts. But all that is to the side. The reality is MAGA's base is white, and there are enough of them to get him into power, to make it so it was close enough of an election to rig. We needed 0 votes for that guy. And even now, otherwise, people that would consider themselves decent people aren't looking at what's happening and screaming and yelling. All of our tax dollars are going to basically ethnic cleansing, which is a sanitized word for genocide that the United States is performing right now. And people are driving to work. They're doing their day like this isn't going on. So we need just this. It just shows the mindset of the American, and what it shows is the power of the indoctrination, the white supremacy indoctrination, because so many Americans think this is just the way human nature is and human
Right.
reality is. And as you said, it's bad for us because when you are trained to believe this narrative instead of what you see with your own eyes and experience with your own life, you are disempowered from achieving anything. You're always forcing your reality to fit this hate ideology that you think is your identity, when it's so much easier to just separate that hate ideology from your identity, set it aside. Now discover who you are as a person. And it's a hard process, though. And I want to tell, everybody in the chat's listening, but it's something that's an ongoing effort. And I was telling, so I went to Peru without knowing why, but that was a time to deconstruct myself, reinvent myself. People that didn't know who I was, I could become a whole new person. I could learn a new language and integrate with a new culture. And it's just through that long, long, long process. You're taking out that toxicity. You're expelling it from you. And even now, I'm 50 years old. I'm still finding ways. My wife's very helpful. She tells you're getting that wrong, and so I'm like, thank you. And I have conversations with you and with Will Fullwood, and we're constant. King Ray Vet's there; he's helping me. But it's like, have grace. We need, and if we find people they're open to these conversations, but they're very confused. That confusion, that frustration, that's all part of white supremacy. And when we try to guide them, they take it as a personal attack, because that's another characteristic of white supremacy, and it protects itself. It's like a virus that protects itself, and it kills the host. Maybe that's a great thing to say. White supremacy is a virus that kills the host, and we have to cure you of it. We have to cure our culture of it.
Think about it. Think about the unhappiness you're seeing. These guys have the White House,
Yeah.
the House, the Congress, and the Supreme Court, and they're still unhappy.
Yeah.
They've had their will with the economy. They're still unhappy. And the reason why is what they're following doesn't work. But I tell you one thing that I'm glad that you said. I'm glad of something you said. You talk about how people have worked with you, etc. Because the reality is we are all victims of how we were reared. That's it. Period.
Mm-hmm.
We are victims of how we were reared. And it's hard to there are a lot of things that I had to deprogram myself, of which I've spoke about on other ones of the programs that I did with you. But I've deprogrammed myself off of a whole lot of my bad habits, right? But it's a constant thing that you have to do. Every now and when I talk about being a former sexist, every now I would say, even today, I would say something, and I would, go back and I'll make a telephone call and say, hey, I didn't mean X, Y this way. Was that a sexist comment or whatever? Just trying to make sure, because there are certain things that are muscle memory in the way it's brain memory, right? Muscle memory, the way you act. And the best thing that happens is when you call somebody to tell them, hey, I said this, I really didn't mean that. Was that sexist in it? And they laugh at you, right? And then they said, no Egberta. But let me tell you what is great.
Yeah.
What is great is that you're calling to find out if it was. You know,
Mhm.
that kind of a thing is, I think, where we have to be. As far as the white supremacy thing, I honestly think that we have to go. Look, I live in a very very white area. And what I tell people all of the times is the following. And I go up and I speak to everybody. And I say, and I know some of these people at first, they're aghast that I come and I speak to them, and then they have a conversation. And then, uh, yes, 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 you're absolutely right, sir. And Walter, I got to get you.
Yes.
Wait a minute. You haven't been on. Yeah, we got to put you a whole damn hour on politics done right
Yeah.
live.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That'd be wonderful.
yeah. But let me tell you, Walter. So I mean, I, one of the things that I get into a lot of trouble with is I do want to engage even the MAGA people, right? I want to engage them because you know I've I've spoken to people that later I found out they were full-blooded MAGA, and
Hmm.
some of the things
Hmm.
I then saw on their pages was like, how can this person that I am speaking with, that is such a nice person and all of that, write some of these things?
Yeah.
Which means there is something that allowed them to abstract me from
Yeah.
that. And what I think that is just because they're having that interaction. And I think in the long run, if we do a hell of a lot more of that,
Yeah.
uh, you know, and not, I don't. When I start these discussions, a lot of my friends can't take it. They tell me you're crazy. But when I start these discussions, all I do, brother, is listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I will
I
say, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh,
No, no, please, please, please.
I've seen a couple of your videos and yeah, they're wonderful when you're talking to people and and I think what's neat is that you're very, very courteous, but you also establish a level of authority. You establish boundaries, like polite boundaries. And that there's a lot of now I'm going to talk, you talked, I get to talk. And then you're always saying things like, I knew you were a really smart guy. So you're using this like, yep, on that we agree. And you emphasize those agreement points. And so, but there's a lot of things because they're not all that's just one, and
Hmm.
right now my mind is really occupied. I have my friend in Minneapolis. I'll send you that video if you haven't seen it, but I interviewed him. He was on the ground and he's kind of modeling our peaceful what's the word we want to use? Our peaceful response to ICE.
Peaceful resistance.
Yeah, I didn't want to use resistance. I wanted but maybe that's the best way to say it. Peaceful resistance. We're always nonviolent. I want to emphasize a couple of things about what he's doing because it's really important. Where you're just getting groups of people together, and it goes back to Renee, Nicole Good. We had 3 or 4 people there videoing that event, and had those
Hmm.
people not been there, we wouldn't know the truth of that event. We'd have
Also,
to
that's
take
your people that were out there.
that would
They
have
did
been
a
not mine, but
great
Daniel's.
job,
Yeah,
man.
that would have been Daniel's people, not mine, but he's part of that. Where
Well,
they're
you're on a
and
team, right? You guys are a team.
I'm like an hour and a half away. I'm not in the Twin
Okay.
Cities, but I want to do is get more people to be aware. It's called defend612.com, I think is his webpage. People
Hmm.
want to go on there and support, but it's coming. I mean, this is another thing to wake people up. And let's one killing, and it's been more than one killing, but let's end it at this latest killing. The latest killing should always be the last killing. That should be our
Right.
objective. But I mean, a lot of us are scared and frustrated, and it's really important. He's been saying his peaceful observers often get hauled off. I was talking to him yesterday. They'll haul off the peaceful observers who are citizens who can prove their citizenship. And he says usually they make them sit there for, well, he said 4 or 5 hours if they're white, and like 6 to 10 hours if they're, it's longer. And he says, though, they're going to try to provoke you into saying something hostile and threatening.
Right.
So we in our groups like this, and and I'll see this too. I'm going to have a conversation with Kryn Johansson in a few weeks. I mean, people get frustrated and they start making statements. I remember years ago, I was at the airport with a friend of mine, and he was making a joke about having something to blow up the plane. All
Oh
of a
God.
sudden, well,
Oh
and it
no.
was like, yeah, and it's like you say it, and they haul you off then, and it's like, look,
Yeah.
and it's like, it doesn't matter if it's social media. It doesn't matter if you're talking,
Yeah.
just never train yourself to never make statements like that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
also train yourself to always say, we're going to be peaceful. And it's all done with whistles. It's all done with being there. And he's saying they get you, they pressure you, and they try to get you, trick you into saying something hostile. I don't know how much physical violence and abuse these people are getting when they're detained, if they're getting hit, if they're getting slapped around, if they're having their cell phone destroyed. I would say if you're going to go out and be an observer, use a phone that doesn't have your social media on it. I mean, there's logical things we have to
Yeah.
do here. They're going to download and clone your phone. So don't have your kids' phone numbers on that phone. Don't have pictures. Don't have your address. So
Have
there's
your
just a lot
extra
of things.
phone, guys. Have your extra phone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and let me just tell folks, just a quick thing. A lot of people know this, a lot don't. I have these extra phones, right? That when I don't renew it, and I use a company called Tello,
Yes.
TELLO.com.
Yep.
You can get a SIM card between $6 or to do your thing. But if you want unlimited, $25. Hey, get an old phone or get an old phone off eBay, get a SIM card, you're
Yeah.
okay.
Factory reset one probably. And
Yes.
yeah. So I've been talking with Daniel about that. And yeah, when you're like when you're talking with just people in suburban communities, that's one type of conversation. If you're talking with an ICE agent in full body armor and his mask covered up, that's a different conversation. And I think it's just, it's because they're just not uniform. The characteristics are different. And I want to say too, I mean, these things, it manifests in all these different ways, and there's so much we can do. We have to get our organizing done. It's our job right now to activate everybody, activate everybody to the reality of what we're facing right now. Because too much of the country, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer have not committed to working to defund ICE. And everybody has to pressure them, rise up and make them, because they're worried about a defund narrative. It's like, look, we already told you, you're up against white supremacy. They're going to contort everything you say, no matter what you say, to serve their narrative. So all you can do, you can't sit there and change your response based on what you think they're going to say. Act with integrity. Act with integrity always. And we know that defunding ICE, I mean, the billions, it's just heartbreaking, that could have been spent on education. Your kids could have gone to college. People could have had homes, the homes for veterans. We could have done all these positive things instead of forking it over to white supremacists who are violent people.
You know,
Thoughts on that?
I had a caller this morning that said something similar to something that you just said, or that would be a corollary to what you said. You just spoke about how much money they spent on this as opposed to on education, but we don't. And you just spoke about Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer not really doing their job. Um, what this caller said was, when you go to the abortion clinics, you used to have all the right wingers out there with dead babies and baby parts and big pictures, and it brought the cameras in to make a message. What Johnny said this morning is, how comes at each of these rallies we don't have these pictures showing the, let's say, the ICE agent, mask agent with somebody's face plastered into the ground? How comes we don't have all these different things that illustrate this? How comes Hakeem Jeffries doesn't point out that by spending the money in the big beautiful bill, they were defunding many police? How come they don't use that against him? Why don't they pick up these narratives to neutralize anything that these guys could come with, however false on their part, truth on our part? And I think it comes with a lot that what you have said. Now, when you write, you put a whole lot of, that stuff in words. Now, you and I would hope that we had 100 million readers every day. We don't. So we have to use every method possible to get that message out, whether it be TikTok, Instagram. We have to put it every. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm doing my all best to be at all platforms to really do that. But what you said is so damn important, and that is you have to. You can't wait for Schumer. You can't wait for Hakeem Jeffries. What you're doing is what
Yep.
has to be done.
Yeah, we're in this mess because of lack of a response. And I've got a wonderful story about that too. Um, my daughter told this story today where one of her teachers had just given out a card, kind of aware, that kids were really nervous because tension is really high. We're really close to the Twin Cities. We've been worried that the agents would be kicked out and raid here. And one of the teachers just put out a thing, say, hey, here's your rights. These are the rights. Well, that card was taken home, and some MAGA dad got this card. And then he called up, he complained to the school, and he complained to the superintendent, he complained to the principal. And I was just hearing this, and I was just feeling enraged. And I know that part of the response to this was my daughter felt guilt, because
Mm-hmm.
it kind of, you could look at it and say, well, it comes down to our action where we're like, we're not sending him to school today because we just don't want this. Had we not done
Mm-hmm.
that, this guy wouldn't have reacted. I had to say, look, evil is responsible for its own actions. It's not our fault. And we've been conditioned again. White supremacy conditioning makes us not do anything. It makes us
Mm-hmm.
believe, oh, we just have to sit here quietly and just put up with this. The easiest thing is to just not put up a fuss and let's just wait till the midterms. We'll just wait. Everything will be, that's white supremacy conditioning. We got to do something
No.
today, right now, 2 hours from now. We got to activate people. And so I was thinking about that with my daughter, and I said, all right, what I need to do and what everybody here needs to do is, because those mega groups, they always start hollering, don't they? You start teaching the
Yep.
truth about American history, instantly you got these because even though they tell us we're not supposed to talk about politics, we're not supposed to do that, the second they're mad about something, they start talking because they don't perceive reality. They only perceive a white supremacy narrative. The rules they say, they never intend to abide by them. So the second they get something at home they don't like from a school, they call, and it happens in silence. So their anger has overrepresentation because they only hear that anger. So those of us who are good people, and we don't have to be angry. See, that's the other thing. Our power is our hopefulness and our positivity. And so all you wonderful people here today, just call up your schools. Call up the school in your district and say, thank you for teaching our kids about their constitutional rights. That is critical that our kids know about their rights. And mention to them, look, the way ICE is behaving right now, where they insist on walking into schools without identifying themselves, that provides camouflage for mass shooters who can buy ICE gear online and come into these schools. Please tell the other families about this. Tell them why you're not letting ICE in, because it represents a threat. And true law enforcement needs to be able to identify itself. And so prior to talking to you, I wrote a message to the teacher. I said, thank you. Just send positive words. They flood the zone with hate and criminality and attacks. We can flood the zone with positivity. I called up a guy, and I've been reaching out. There's this pastor. I talked to him a couple weeks ago at a basketball game. I called him and I told him this whole story. I'm like, can you activate? Because I know he knows the superintendent. They're personal buddies. It's like, can you go and say that this teacher's doing a great job, please? And he's like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. I'd never talked to him before. I called, except for during the game, but I called him up. I found his number. And so this is the kind of stuff people can do. And people always are looking for, what can I do? What can I do? Be positive. Call up schools and say, thank you for helping. Call up schools and say, just thank them for what they're doing. Tell them to keep teaching constitutional rights to our kids. Let them know their rights. You didn't even have to tell them that the ICE is Gestapo. They'll connect the dots on their own.
But
Kids are smart.
what is so interesting that you said? A teacher, did the teacher get in trouble, by the way, when she sent a note home?
It is in play still. All I heard.
Let me tell you why I'm asking. Let me tell you why I'm asking. I'm asking that because it's amazing the similarity between what I just had to, I forgot his name and just had to Google it, what Mark Kelly has been going through.
Yeah.
That you have to be concerned about telling the truth. That you have, on what planet is that a reality? That you have to be concerned for telling the truth. You have to start asking these people, why do you fear the truth? Why do you fear these things? And that then it goes right back into, well, I fear these things because I really can't live within reality.
Yes.
I can't live within the reality because, again, and it goes back again, these are people that many a times, look, there are two strata, right? They're the ones that have been left behind or feel that they're being left behind. And then there are those who are taking advantage. The 1% who know that it's all crap, but it's profitable.
Yeah.
It's all crap. They know all of what's going on that Trump's doing. They know it's all crap, but they also know it's very profitable. And that is what it's all about. you know?
Well, and I don't because it's always like there's only one guy, and it's like, and as we're watching at this, they're gonna make scapegoats. They make scapegoats of us all. There will only be one white supremacist standing on top of the pile of a dead Earth, the ashes of a dead Earth. That's their ideology, and those, but it, and I also have to have grace with people, like we said, because people get indoctrinated to think, well, this is because there's all these gatekeepers at every level of American society. From grade school, you have to, if you're going to advance in grade school, you have to manifest a certain level of hatred, and we don't call it that. We call it our venerated customs and our venerated traditions. And this is our culture and people should adapt. And it's all hidden. Like you said, they transform the narrative. They say, well, they were calling Renee Good a terrorist. It's like, well, why? Why? But they transform reality into their absurd interpretation of reality, and it's impossible when you call it out on it. But then we just become exhausted, and that's a
You
big.
know,
They wear us down. We can't be worn down.
yesterday, watching CNN, and you and I complain about the mainstream media quite a bit because deservedly so. But yesterday, I thought, um, uh, what's his name? I can't remember his name right now. Did such a good job in interviewing Noam.
I saw that.
What
I
he,
saw that.
he
Tappert?
and
Is it Tappert?
Tapper, yeah, Jake
Yeah,
Tapper. Thank you
I
for
saw that.
reminding me,
I
Jake
think I saw
Tapper.
your video. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah. What was amazing is this, right? And talking about just sticking to a narrative and not you talk about not being in reality. Two things. They showed, or she talks about, you have to follow the rules, you have to listen to the police officers. If you try to charge them, they have the right to defend themselves. And
Yeah.
Jake Tapper was just sitting down there waiting to play that video. And then he
Yeah.
played the video with that cop getting the holy crap beat out of him, and that they're slamming the door into the
Yeah.
cop. They're throwing flag poles, they're throwing water extinguishers, all these things they're throwing at the police officers. He asks her, do they have the right to shoot any of these people? Couldn't answer.
Yeah.
Now, one of the people who read the note said, Jake Tapper didn't do his job. He should have asked, why is it that you guys are making such a big issue over the young woman who got killed when she tried to break into the Senate? Well, she was trying to break into the Senate. What was Renee Good doing again? She wasn't trying to break into anything or harm anybody. And you justifying that killing, you never justified that killing, and you free all the people that attacked the cops.
Yes. And
Amazing.
well, and there's a strategy of white supremacy that's at work there. Well, and I wrote it down. They try to make us defer to an indoctrinated assumption. And that jerk, what's his name, Scott Jennings, the guy is
Yeah.
always like, he's always doing these just faces like, what you're saying is absurd, But and the challenge is upon us then, and this is why, as we remove that white supremacy from ourselves, we start seeing how these indoctrinated assumptions are false, and just all these ideas. I mean, there's a reason that they endlessly bang the drum with their rote conditioning. And that's what I always say. The left uses critical thinking, and then they just ignore the power of rote conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go on the radio, I mean, anybody who's an educated person, as you're driving around, you're listening, it's like, here's a conservative station. You hear it in 2 seconds. You're like, okay, I'm changing it. Because it's like they're already spoken 6 things that are lies. But we have to recognize that, for every 1 or 2 stations that are decent, there's 50 or so of these conservative road
It's
indoctrination
crazy.
stations. And
It
they're
is
just constantly
crazy.
going. And that's part of what we're trying to do here on this alternative media or new media. Because the right, they have this stolen fortune of slaves, and all the stolen labor and stolen land, stolen fortune of genocide. And they use that. So they pay people like Charlie Kirk and all these other, and Nick Fuentes. There's no reason for those guys to have an audience.
Look, they get millions to build a database of people to miss and ill inform. I tell you, Walter, I sit down and I figure if we had a tenth of what they have to spend on building an information base, think about what we would do.
Yes.
Think about what we would do.
Yeah.
You talk about, and guess what, Walter? When a lot of times we blame Trump and all of that. Trump is just the implementer.
Yeah.
This is not
He's just
about
the
Trump.
symptom. He's the symptom of the underlying
Right.
disease. That's the fruit.
Because I mean, there are funders, wealthy, deep
Yeah.
pocketed
Yeah.
funders that fund the radio stations. You've heard about the Powell memo before, right?
I
That
actually
fund.
haven't. I'll look it up, but I probably heard something
Yeah,
similar.
just go to my website, Egberto. I did a whole piece on it, and I also interviewed some people on it. The Powell memo is this document. For those of you that don't know, a document that was written by Lewis Powell. He was a Democrat that eventually made it to the Supreme Court, assigned by Nixon. It was a thing that said progressives are getting too damn smart. You guys that are listening here, you're getting too damn smart. So what did they do? They had to infiltrate all aspects of our government and social being in order to reprogram us, because we were starting to ask the questions like, why is it that we do all the work and we don't get the spoils? So they said they had to infiltrate the churches, the schools, the media, the churches, school, media were the main ones that they infiltrated. And you notice with the moral majority, you got all the evangelical churches turned right. Remember, the moral majority used to support abortion. They had
Yeah.
to find these different things to create the break. So they infiltrated that. They created think tanks, the Heritage Foundation,
Yep.
the Cato Institute, all these bastions of logical misinformation, right?
Yep.
They needed to make sure that those got created and funded. They went into the schools. They made sure that the curriculum in the schools would be changed. That's why you see them going after all the school boards. They work on this lower level, understanding that if we program people from the beginning, our job is fairly done. Because if
Yes.
you teach people, if you teach it, think
Yes.
about what we think about milk. Think about what we think about all these different things. We drink a lot of cow's milk because that's how we were indoctrinated. A lot of things that we do. I am indoctrinated. You're indoctrinated, right? Some of it isn't harmful, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the other things are very so harmful.
Yeah.
And that's why they are in the schools. When you ask, why are they so, why do they want to control the boards? Why do they want to stop the books? Why do they want it? Because if you get close, why is Zinn? Have you ever read the book by Zinn, the American?
Who's them? I don't think I've
Uh,
read it. I know what you're talking
oh,
about. Though.
yeah, I forgot what it's called, but the real history of the real history of the United States of America, Howard Zinn. I mean, you start to ask yourself these questions like, oh
Yeah.
my God, is this what it really was, right? We are the bastion of, what Donald Trump is doing now, and why you see a lot of it he gets away with. You notice
Yes.
he mentioned Monroe Doctrine, he goes ahead and he mentioned, all these things are our genesis, right? We had grown out of it. We had become a better people. We
Yeah.
had, we did a documentary, with Move to Men called Legalized Democracy, Walter. And in that documentary, what we showed is that we started not in a good place, but with the change in laws. The one thing I'm going to use a word you hate, Walter. Forgive me, okay? Forgive me, Walter.
Okay.
The one thing the founding fathers did well, in my opinion, the only real good thing was to make the elastic clause elastic
Mm.
so that we could have amendments to the Constitution, because the meat of the Constitution that gave everybody humanity, from women to people of color to all of that came about by the changes you are able to make to the Constitution of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Absent that,
Yes.
we would have been living in their world.
Yeah.
Walter's gonna get mad again. We would have been living in the founding fathers' world.
Yeah. No, and what you're saying too, I wrote down, that's why we can't wait to the midterms, because this
Amen, brother.
indoctrination, yeah, the indoctrination mechanism just continues and continues uncontested. And all you wonderful people, and this is a great time to say, that's exactly what we're trying to do. So please, if you can
Yes.
support us, we need your support. And money is great. Sharing is probably more important. If you have email lists, send these conversations out to people in email lists, or just personally talk to people. We need to bring more people over here because the Democrats aren't doing it. The Republicans do budget to support their right-wing hate groups. The Democrats won't even bring me onto their shows. They won't even bring me on to talk. I mean,
You
Pete
two left.
Buttigieg
Are
is
you
here.
crazy?
They
Are you
won't.
crazy, Walter? You're too left, man.
Yeah.
You
I've been
look.
interviewing a lot of progressive candidates. The progressive candidates are happy to come on and talk. And I
Yes.
always tell them too, it's like, don't spend money on advertising. Don't do a political ad on Fox News. You would get so
No.
much more bang for your buck just sponsoring my page at $100 a year. Come on
Yeah.
whenever you got 5 seconds in your car. We'll
Yes.
talk. But the Democrats refuse to do that. And they're part of this control mechanism. And just little by little, we're getting there. And this is the other thing you just said. Imagine what we do with that money. And it seems overwhelming because really evil has control of every lever of power. They have all the money. The only thing that we have is the truth, and what's real on our side. But we don't have to switch everybody. The studies have shown if you can get 1, 2, 3% of the population, then you get the exponential expansion. People start
Yes.
talking, once you start doubling, you double, 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 all of a sudden you got
Yes.
everybody at the end of the month.
Yes.
So keep hope and keep fighting. There's no other choice but this. And the more like today, some people might have never heard of the things we're talking about before. They have
Right.
1% of the journey. You're not going to be able to just forget what you just heard. It
Right.
doesn't this truth because human beings are curious. And we know when I was a teacher and the other teachers, some of them didn't like me because I was always not the authoritative guy. I'd always say, we are together. We are unified in a mutual process of learning. And the second I said that, the students knew I was telling them the truth. And I never had any
Mhm.
kind of issues with discipline. And the other teachers would get angry and they get mad. And then they'd blame me when the kids were unruly with them. And it's
And
like,
you had control. They
I had control.
respected you.
Yes,
They
I got standing
respected you.
ovations. I got standing
Yeah.
ovations from my kids. And then they then they'd go and give the other teachers a hard time. Because it's like the revolution is here. But once you've activated that mind, it cannot be overpowered, So spread it, people.
And that is,
And the
look,
people here.
let me tell you, Walter, that is the biggest fear of our oligarchy, biggest fear of our
Scared.
plutocracy.
Yeah.
Because, again, the big, I don't want to change the subject on you here, but I just want to say this briefly for the wonderful audience that you've accumulated here. And that is that everybody's scared of AI, right? And they're scared of AI because, well, AI is going to do a lot of things. Right now, AI is going to cut a lot of jobs. I can tell you from how I use AI, I know there are 4 or 5 other people that if I had to hire out to do some of this stuff, that those are people that don't have jobs anymore. But there are 2 ways to look at this, and this is where political involvement, as you preach, comes in, Walter. And it goes like this: AI is a composite knowledge of all of us. And what we have done, and by the way, even the development of the technology was done by us because we educated these engineers and scientists from elementary school right up and until college. We invested in the technologies that they use to further develop these technologies. We did that. All of us as taxpayers,
Mhm.
all of us as paying. And again, the databases that they're creating is using or are using all of our composite knowledge. You and I are talking right now, Walter. This is being digitized by AI as soon as we're done, and it forms a part of their knowledge base. All of our work, all of our stuff is in there. Yet, we have seeded that, the power and the profits that comes from that development, we've seeded it to the tech bros.
Mhm.
And how have we seeded it? By having the government decide how these guys operate. Now, think about it. Think about if all of us knew this, inherently knew this, and we went out there and forced our government to,
Yeah.
as AI come on board, and a lot of people are losing their jobs, tax that efficiency, because we haven't been doing that. Tax that efficiency to create a smaller work week, to create
Yeah.
more programs,
Yep.
because we all paid for it. And
Yes.
everybody would be employed, everybody works less, everybody has more time for their families.
Yes.
All of that is what occurs. But we have to look at it not from a capitalist standpoint,
Yeah.
but from a reality standpoint
Yeah.
of what and who. That's your word again,
Yes.
Walter. Reality.
Yes.
We have to look at it from a reality standpoint as far as who are the real who are the real job creators in this country?
Yes.
Who are the real intellect in this country? Who are the
Yep.
real innovators? They will have you believe that, well, if you do that, lack of profit, no innovation. The innovators don't get the profit. And
Yeah.
anyway, it's the guys who push paper that get the profit. We
Yes.
have to change the mindset.
Yes. And everything you're saying too, all those arguments to justify wealth, those are white supremacy arguments.
Yes.
They are not aligned with reality. And yeah, jobs are created by themselves. I have 30 jobs to do right now. No millionaire I have to go wash my clothes. It's laundry day again. That's not because of a millionaire. Jobs happen. But yeah, it's just like it's so complex how I'll run into people and I'll start saying, well, we should do this. And people say, well, that won't do any good, And it's just like that defeatist thing is, again, it's white supremacy, getting you to do nothing, And like I'm saying, recounts, let's do the recounts. And they say, well, what's the good? Or they're calling me Trump then. It's like, no, just for election integrity. If we find but it's just the threat of it. Like, we are going to do a recount. So don't cheat, then it stops them. But if we're just like, well, we can't ever recount because that makes us look paranoid, we're playing right into the hands of white supremacists. And every single day, it seems like in my comment sections, I thank people. And a lot of people, I'm not trying to be critical or mean to anybody because I'm the same way where I've been indoctrinated with white supremacy thinking. I'm Walter. I'm a white supremacist. I'm trying to get better. It's like, I renounce that ideology, but I recognize that it's still torturing me. That's that type of thing. And, every day people tell me things. I hear the arguments and I'm getting better at recognizing them now. And it's like, no, what you just said. And that's what we said before. They divert to some sort of an indoctrinated belief, which is an argument to white supremacy. And the white supremacists you're talking to do not anticipate that you'll have an argument for that further argument. They're defaulting to something that they think is established. And you say, wait a minute, what you just defaulted to isn't right. Then they don't know what to do because now you're attacking the mechanism that keeps white supremacy active. And this is a big process, though, because it happens again and again and again and again. And if you're not careful, if you're not on it, and if they're also combining it with frustrating you and pestering you, and you probably got an emotional response because you just saw somebody get killed. So it's really, really difficult. So every day in our quiet moments, we come through and we try to overcome and remove this white supremacy thinking and these assumptions that aren't true about wealthy people and these ideas that if people have power, they're going to abuse it. And I wrote how the Constitution is a document of white supremacy. The one thing it doesn't have, it's in its time, it was a progressive document for its age. It created a new ceiling that was above any other country in the world. Since then, the rest of the world has surpassed it. And the fatal flaw I see of the Constitution is that it assumes only bad people will take positions of power. You have the separation of powers because they're assuming we'll only have evil people in all these roles and they'll never get a coalition to attack us. We need a document that ensures decent people, that understands that decent people exist. There are such things as decent people. And we need a mechanism that evaluates people to establish their decency. Let's keep out the convicted felons, not elect them to power, and actually elevate, conscious people who have demonstrated in their past that they're decent. But white supremacists, every accusation is a confession. They assume everybody is evil because they know in their hearts that they are evil. And we don't have to take that into ourselves. We don't have to be held responsible for their faults and failures.
Such blasphemy.
Yeah.
Such blasphemy. Walter, you just blasphemed the Constitution of the United States. I just cannot believe that you did that. Now I am going to have to watch how I walk around Kingwood because I'm on a show with some. No, you're so right. You are so right, man. And let me tell you, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be able to be truthful. But until you learn your flaws, you cannot solve your problems. And I've spoken on your show many a times of learning my own internal flaws.
Yeah.
And not till I worked on them could I become a better person. You've spoken about going to Peru and actually becoming a new person, excoriating yourself from many of the things that you grew up with, how you were reared. It is amazing that this is something, Walter, that everybody can do.
Yes, yes.
And the thing about it is, for those that are listening to us, it feels so good.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
mad at the world. You know that we are flawed. And even as flawed beings, we can atone.
Yes,
All
yes.
those are good
Yeah.
things.
Your identity is not the worst thing you ever did, and every day is
No,
a moment to go forward. And that's the other thing. The white supremacists, they have this hate ideology that makes them do further actions of hate. Oh no, I lost him. Okay, he's back.
no, no, you're back.
They,
You're
they
back.
make they make them do further actions of hate, and then they just get caught up in this cycle and they get frustrated. And because they deny reality, they're disempowered from ever improving anything. And so I want to mention too, like that mega guy who sent in the letter complaining about my daughter's teacher. He
Hmm.
told his daughter, "You have to stay away from those people. Those people will get you into trouble."
Please
And
tell me that's not the case.
that's what he
Please
said.
tell me.
The
Oh,
father said that
God.
to the daughter. But it tells us something. It tells us MAGA is terrified. And we should
Yes.
not be afraid of people who are terrified. And that's why they wear their body armor because they're afraid. They cover their faces because they're afraid. And they're just people that go to sleep. And I guess this gets back to what you were saying before, how to get through to them. It's just that we don't have to try to understand them. We already know what they are. They're poor, terrified people that have been indoctrinated against their will to be hateful, awful people. And we have to somehow give them permission to set that aside. And a lot of them, there are some that get to that point where they're just like, I can't live like this anymore. They recognize it. And those of
Hmm.
us that are potential allies, those of them that are potential allies, we have to encourage them along. But there are some that are just they maybe can't be reached. I mean, there is a certain number that are sociopaths. You have to recognize that.
I am glad that you said that, because that is where I think we all have to draw the line, right? I have about 4 or 5 people in my chats on my daily program at 3 o'clock p.m. and they are immutable. They cannot be reached because their full identity is tied to this thing, and they can't find a way out. And a lot of people complain about how we try to engage MAGA and others, right? But another friend called me real upset, and he said, "I see how you're trying to reach these people, and it's a lost cause." And when I explained to him is that we do realize that some people are immutable. We don't always know which ones are immutable, but we do know some are. It is our job, your job, Walter, my job, to reach those that are not immutable, not to waste an inordinate amount of time after we've figured out that they're immutable, but our job is to make the change. And that change requires a lot of people, which includes some of them as well.
Yes. How are you for time? Do you got a little bit more time, or do you need to get going? It's almost one.
I need to go prepare for my 3 o'clock show, but
Okay.
is there anything else you need to say real quickly, or
Nope. It's just no. I think we covered good stuff. I was gonna like give us a half hour to just kind of like quietly deflate. No, but it's good. I'll let
no,
you
no, no.
go.
Let me
Go.
tell you, look, I have material. I want to be here as long as we need to be here. So that's what
Yeah.
we do.
No, it is, and I keep, and I keep thinking about it too because I grew up in that kind of place, and it was this heavy indoctrination, conservative rural area. There was only, and it was, I just had my breakdown. I'm like, I just got to get out of the country entirely, like not even knowing why I needed to do that. And so, but I have like all through my life, I've always had that inner sense that, this just isn't right. This is, and there were things that I would hide. Like you have to hide things from people. You're telling lies to people because there's hostility there. And so trying to convince people, I think this theme of how we convince people is something I haven't explored enough because it is something that I tried for like the first 25 years of my life until I moved to Peru. I was trying to make people not with it, but maybe the issue back then was I didn't have a better idea of where we needed to go, what the alternative was. I had in my mind the negative space that was left over when a culture of integrity was ripped away. And I tried to like just venture forth into that, off the map and try something new. And so we can't help other people now because now I do have some better awareness of the things that we can do. But yeah, like the process of reaching people. And I think another part of white supremacy, you got to be careful about this. A lot of them, they have no intention of being changed. So they're just trying to waste your time. There are some like that I've met, and they will engage you in argument for hours just to keep you from writing an article and reaching other
Yes.
people. So there's that too.
That's so important what you just said, and that is what the my friend called me upset about. There was one particular interaction that he was upset at me. It's like that guy. Actually, it was two. One, a friend and a KPFT caller. They both called to scold me, and in which I said, "Guys, for all practical purposes, you're right, but I just needed to verify it for myself that that was a lost cause. But hey, you're right, that was a lost cause."
Yes.
You are sometimes.
Yes. And I always encourage people to, I mean, and also to all the wonderful people in the comments. I mean, it's so easy for us in like a comment thread to start having fights, and we're allies, and we just have to just be careful. And there are times you just have to take a step away because that's that white supremacy indoctrination again.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to divide us, divide
Divide and
white
conquer.
people from black people. That was their first division. And now they're dividing, parents from doctors who are recommending vaccines. I mean, they're just division, 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 and social media makes division. So what I keep telling people to do though is the answer lies, there's a couple places. That every accusation is a confession. When they say that there's fraud in, social programs, that is indicating that there's fraud in like the military. We need to do a military audit. There's no reason we should be given $1 trillion, but like absolutely every single thing that they say is an accusation. And also people, we have to train ourselves to look in those places where we're conditioned not to look and do the things we're conditioned not to do. It's really, really hard. And I start with the example of, don't discuss politics or religion at dinner. White supremacy conditioning. That's the first place you should be discussing those things with the people that are closest to you, that mean most to you. And there's just over and over and over again. And they're invisible to me. That's what indoctrination means. All these things are invisible. So the more people out there giving each of us permission to explore these places, we've been indoctrinated and groomed not to look, not to stand up for ourselves. I've been reluctant to call the police like for help pretty much because it's like, well, that's for some other group. I don't even know what's in my head. Like, it's like, wait a minute, my taxes pay for this too. They should be there to help me. I should be able to do this. There's all these ways I go through life, and that's it. We avoid obstacles. We need to go through those obstacles.
Let me just say this real quick, because you said you avoid calling the police for, I guess, because you look at it from a tax reason. I avoid calling the police because I call the police, I become a victim of the police.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of you listening, I think I'm over, let me tell you, in anybody's head like mine, and that is the first thought that comes through the mind. When the cop comes to the house, how am I going to present myself so that it doesn't seem like
Yeah.
I am the actual issue? It goes through your head. I understand that many of you don't feel that. It goes through the head. Thank you. Continue,
Yeah.
man. I just had to say that when you brought that
Yeah.
up about, it's amazing. You and I don't call the police for two different reasons.
Well, yeah.
Yours is,
I guess I just don't want them around either, though. I mean, exploring that because, and yeah, my experience is not the same as yours, obviously, but also being the person of compassion in this rural community, there was a time, like in the absence of anybody who is visibly different, they look for the people that are ideologically different to pile on and make examples of. And I mean, it would be things like you go to school in new clothes and they throw you in the dirt just so that to dehumanize you. That, oh, he's got a new outfit, let's destroy that outfit, so we don't have to think of that as a person. And these are just, but it's just all those different things that I want everybody here to help me, and Egberto too. It's like, because all these ways that we just don't, there's arguments we just don't even make, why? And I keep wondering, it's like, why didn't Kamala Harris just destroy her opponent? I mean, she brought him so close to like narcissistic collapse, but why not go the rest of the way? And like, out of adherence to some kind of outdated sense of decorum, she didn't. And then we got Hakeem Jeffries saying we can't get into being accused of defunding. Like all these things, they're playing tic-tac-toe and we're acting like they're playing, 4-dimensional chess. And we're just outsmarting ourselves. It's just so basic.
You made me cough. You made me cough. Why'd you do that? Listen, you nailed it, bro. You nailed it. But I tell you, you look at it as, why can't they go the next way, right? I look at it another way. I think it has a lot to do with the establishment, Walter.
Yeah.
I think the establishment is, I mean, I'm not saying they're the same, but it's all one. And being
Yeah.
all one, there's just so far they want to go on the left side. The right side is unlimited, right?
Yeah.
You can get unlimited,
Yep.
you can have unlimited growth there because the plutocracy will always win with unlimited growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the left side, that's trying to do things and get more for people or whatever. Look, I think it's a bit more sinister than you and I actually think.
Oh, well, there's some groups. I mean, the number one thing that we have power to do something about is that social conditioning. And like you said, our entire political system, the voting base, all politicians, they've all been indoctrinated by the same thing we're talking about. So they're making assumptions that are not based on reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to work to change to get more and more people. We need more of a progressive movement where people see that. But what you said before, too, like they tell us not to go too left, but nobody ever says don't go too white supremacist. Like we
Right.
don't even talk about it. And like the whole thing about white supremacy is buried. People pretend it doesn't exist. There must have been think tanks writing Project 2025. I mean, it's written in the language of lawyers. There must have been
Thank
lawyers. The
you.
people are educated. They must be saying, and we're just acting like, oh, that doesn't even exist. The KKK has never been established as a terrorist organization. If you start looking on social media, you will find all these Confederacy groups. Like you will find all that stuff. And we are indoctrinated not to see that. We're indoctrinated to ignore the sins of the father. Who's the most dangerous person in a young girl's life? Her father. Who is the most dangerous person in an adult woman's life? Her spouse. And that's where that's the danger there. And we look at all these other issues. Like 2/3 of all gun deaths are suicides, but we talk about the mass shootings. We just disregard our brains. We got blinders on of where all the real issues are. And that's when I get back to the white base is what got him in there. The white base has to hold themselves accountable.
You know what is also scary? You're talking about who's the most dangerous to these kids, etc.
Yeah.
The church.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I mean,
yeah, that's an issue.
and it is sometimes you sit down and you say, "Oh my God!" The church came out against trends and all that good stuff. Well, I should say evangelical church. I should define it. And there's a woman that I interviewed, did a study of all the crime, sexual crime against kids that's occurring around the country. And you would not imagine that the highest percentage is actually inside. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, that's the patriarchal model. The father can never be questioned and he can never be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
When white supremacists say law and order, they never intend for that to apply to themselves. That's their
Right.
perversion of reality again. But I always say white supremacy is this perversion of Christianity where they take a human being and establish him as God on earth. And so and I reached out today. I've been very frustrated with the church my whole life. I'm a survivor of Catholic abuse. So it's not a thing that I like. Today, I called up a pastor who I had talked to, and I knew him to be a decent person. And so we can overcome that. I want more religious people because they've got enormous reach and enormous respect. And I asked him, I said, can you go and be an advocate for this teacher who stood up for my daughter? And he said he would because he was scheduled to go in there and be a substitute teacher that day. And so that's the kind of progress we need. And if we get more, and again, it's like once we get all the way up to the Pope, recognizing that white supremacy is besmirching the good name of religion, and we stop hiding it and ignoring it.
Or what? Is that Pope great or what?
He's doing his work. I would like the Pope to be a woman, so I always say that. I get a little bit pissed that they don't have women. We need a woman Pope. But other than that, we need a woman
Pope. We need a woman president of the United States. We need a hell of a lot more testosterone, a hell of a lot less testosterone in the world right now. A lot less.
Yeah. Well, I think we're kind of getting done. I know you got work to do. I could sit here and talk to you all day. I love you.
I love you too, my man. And let me just tell you this, right? First of all, I am always honored to be on your program. And, one of the persons somewhere in the chat said, wait, hadn't Walter been on your show? And, since I think of these as I never thought about that.
I think
I don't only want you on my show. I want to get a program with two of us because I'm going to throw you up on Pacific Network because your voice, man, I love talking to you. I just love talking to you. So we're going we're going to put that together on a specific topic so that I can get a whole hour that I can process and put it right there as a show that goes through the entire Pacifica network, man, because you're a good brother.
Well, thank you so much. I'll be looking forward to it. Tengo que ir algún día a Panamá a visitar tu...
Vas a visitar a Panamá, hombre, y cuando vas a ver que todo es bien verde y bonito y los americanos se están mudando
Sí,
a
sí.
Panamá ahora.
Lo he visto por la ventana del avión, pero nunca he caminado por las calles y no he visto los bailes y las discotecas. Supongo que tienen discotecas, pero algún día.
Let me tell you guys, wait, before you go, let me tell you guys, my brother here, this great gringo, is really, really a Spanish speaker, man. You know, you go, my man. Anyway,
It's
look.
my heart. It's my heart.
Brother, I appreciate being on your program. Let's do this again soon.
Absolutely. All right, I'll be in touch. Thanks to all the wonderful people in the chat. Make sure to subscribe to Egberto and me. We love you all. Love you too, Egberto. We'll see you
Love
soon.
you, brother. Peace.